Looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on another Monday evening, another Keep Calm and Carry. Thank you so much. Let's adjust the screen a little bit so you can see the beautiful hair. How about that? All right. So I'm going to move you guys over here. I'm going to get over here and mute that because, I never am prepared for anything, but I wanted to take an opportunity just to get the live chat rolling, get some people into the chat room. I see that you guys have already been talking, and I just wanted to say a quick hello to everybody in the chat room. Heath Adams, I'm so glad that you got the flashlight. I hope it works out for you. Congratulations on winning the trivia. I don't even remember what the question was. A couple months ago, I think. I don't know, but let's see. Heath, again, thank you for joining, being first time. Art, what's going on, man? Yeah, I don't know about the three guys gun chat. Whatever. Bob Callie, how you doing? Good to see you. Many things. Good to see you as well. Dr. Cat Milk. Hey, buddy. What's going on to you? Let's see. And Art and Heath going back and forth. Good to see you guys. Richard Olson, always good to see you. And Hootie Hoo, what's up, man? You spelled good wrong. I think it's supposed to be G-U umlaut D. Blitz, what's up, man? Gunrunner. BR549. Man, it's been a long time since I've seen you in Alaska Ballistics. Hello, man. What's going on? Let's do something here real quick, something a little bit different than what I'm used to. I got something in the mail today, and I don't know who it's from. I've already opened it up, but came in this package right here. It is from a company called Heroes and Villains. Got a little sticker. Toss that up onto the safe, and I got a wallet, and it's actually pretty cool because it has one of my favorite stormtroopers on it. It's the Scout Trooper, and you can see here, it's the speeder bike, right? So that's pretty cool. And then I've got a t-shirt here. It's a Star Wars t-shirt, and it's just a picture of a Rebel X-Wing helmet, and it says Rebel Scum on it. So pretty cool. If you guys are watching and you sent that to me, thank you so very much. That is an awesome gift. I don't know who it came from. I didn't order it. It just showed up one day, today actually, and I think that's pretty freaking awesome. Let's see real quick. Alaskan Ballistics says we had the Taurus judge at Cabela's that wouldn't have their cylinder lock up. Interesting. You can keep spinning it. Wow. It would make sense that Mark identifies with stormtroopers. I hope your aim is slightly better. No, it's not. If you read the comments in my accuracy videos, you'll see that I can't shoot. So with that being said, let's get this started. I'm extremely excited to talk to Heath Adams, Outland movie. That is absolutely correct. It was Halloween. Yeah, that's right. I'm extremely excited to have our guest tonight. It is the one and only Humble Marksman. Thank you so much for joining me. How is it going on your side of the world?
It's good. Starting to get cold in Texas, which is not what I signed up for. So I look forward to our 6 weeks of winter being over and being back to, early summer where it's supposed to be.
Right on. So Texas, eh?
Yes, sir. All
right. North, south, east, west?
North Texas.
Texas.
DFW area.
Okay. So basically Oklahoma.
That's what everybody else in Texas says. So yeah, you're doing it right. Way to go. We like to think of McKinney as the first line of defense against Oklahoma.
I figured that would have been the Red River. No? Okay.
There's a store nearby that sells all these, like, you have to be from Texas to get all the jokes on the shirts, but it's just the colony. It's not a cult, I swear. Like, just really funny shirts. So
That's awesome.
if you're from Texas, Bullzerk sells some pretty mean Texas shirts that only people from Texas will understand.
That's awesome. Well, I have been down to Texas several times. I've enjoyed my time every single trip I make down that way. I'm hopefully will be making a trip in the spring for Clash Bash. I've put it on my calendar this year, so I'm hopefully heading down for that because I've got a number of friends who have been begging me to come down there. So maybe I will swing by and we can high five on the way down to Houston.
You got to connect with Fuck Long from the Firepower United channel. He's a buddy I shoot with up here. He shoots that every year. So
I'm actually connected with him. I don't think that he knows who I am, but I am in an AK chat group that he's in as well. So he's a good dude. He's a really good dude.
He's really his online persona doesn't really match his actual persona, so it's very fun.
Yep.
To see both sides of it. So it's great. He's a wonderful troll.
Yeah, he is. Him and another guy that I am connected with in the same group is Tufu. He was on a previous live chat a couple weeks ago, and same thing, exactly the same thing. These guys are maniacs all the time. So anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself. I think I've got a little bit of an understanding of where you come from, but I think from the people out in the audience, they may not be familiar with your work and want to understand a little bit more about you.
So I started actually making videos on YouTube about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I recommend you not watch any of them up through maybe 2 years ago. Like they started being halfway okay about 2 years ago, but before that they're awful. So just don't watch them. But I started making videos on YouTube because I started competing with CZs. And there was just no good information on CZs, and having a competitive shooting background and being kind of a high burn user, like a lot of the information that was out there on YouTube about CZs was just bad. Like it's just wrong. They're really awesome guns. Like the level of refinement on the trigger can be top shelf, but they're kind of fragile if you don't maintain them. And so I wanted to speak more to kind of that side of it and kind of screw around with the competitive shooting thing. So like the first 3 years of my channel is basically all CZ content and super dry, no humor, very bad production value quality, no scripting. It was just, don't bother watching any of it. And then kind of midstream, once I kind of started enjoying actually editing videos and things like that, it's like, this is kind of fun. And I think I have something unique to offer in the kind of review space, because a lot of reviews do end up sounding kind of samey and just like, these are the greatest guns ever and they're so great and these are the specs from the manufacturer's website. And so I felt like I could, because I'm kind of have an engineering background, I can nerd out on some stuff, and with the competitive shooting background, kind of get into some of the performance driven stuff on the guns. So like to dive deep on that sort of thing. So and more recently, just having fun with the editing and stuff like that. So lots of memes and call outs and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun. And just recently it started kind of picking up speed kind of mid-year. It started to sort of accelerate. So it's been fun seeing where it's going.
I've been noticing your subscribership is a little bit larger than mine. I think you're what, 35, 30, close to 40?
I just crossed 30 this past weekend.
Okay. And your engagement is pretty awesome. Some of your recent videos are getting a few thousand views just within a couple of days, which is amazing. So congratulations on that. It's really good to see that your subscribership and the analytics are working well for you. That's pretty awesome. So it's been pretty tough, this year with everything going on. So.
Yeah, it has. But I've also gone out of the way to make sure, like, monetization sucks, but from an algorithm perspective, like, you have to keep them monetized or else YouTube won't recommend the video. And I kind of changed my strategy from trying to optimize search to optimize like recommendations, and keeping everything kind of topical, or keeping everything, like I take dots off of pistols specifically because whatever person in the third world who's going to be reviewing my video for monetization is going to see it and say, it's a modified pistol. Let's shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
So by keeping them looking stock, I've been able to keep my monetization in place. I mean, yeah, it makes a little bit of money. I mean, I don't think any of us are getting rich in the firearm space making videos on YouTube.
No.
But it does increase the reach of the videos. So it's if anybody in the audience is doing that, bend over backwards to make sure that you can keep your monetization, just because YouTube's algorithm will work for you to the extent that it will.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to say that YouTube, the monetization aspect, while it was still fairly low, would help pay for ammo on a monthly basis.
Yeah, maybe Grand Thumb can get his ammo paid for on a monthly basis at this point, but nobody else.
No, not anymore. I have shelled out. I'm getting ready to spend another $320 or $360 tomorrow. Luckily, I've found a really sweet deal on 1,000 rounds of a caliber that no one is shooting right now, but some of us underground guys. But I found 1,000 rounds of 5.45 by 39.
Oh, there you go.
For $360. So
that's a really good price. I mean, it's cheaper than 9mm these days. So hey,
I know. So with that being said, let's take a break real quick because I want to head on over to the chat room. Richard Olson, he wanted to take a second to say thank you, Humble, for your sacred bond between the content creator and us, the subscriber. And that's pretty awesome. I really applaud your effort to.
It's a really strong bond, and I just really celebrate and cherish all of my subscribers. There's a lot of face tattoos with my logo going around out there, and I just really appreciate the level of intensity from my subscribers for doing that. So
yeah,
way to go, guys.
He's also really appreciative of your great videos, especially gripping the Glock. And so good on you. Let's see. We have a few other things jumping around in the chat room, talking about what we're getting ready to get into. So just hold on a second, guys. We're going to get to it here in just a second. But I just wanted to make sure I acknowledged everybody that has jumped in. Oh, many things saying sexy glass, Humble.
Yeah, many things is on the Hunter's HD Gold train with me here. So these fine glasses that also make me look like Walter Sobchak from The Big Lebowski are available for purchase from huntershdgold.com. The dude who runs the company is a really solid dude, and I wouldn't wear these ugly birth control devices if they didn't actually improve my shooting. So I broke my glasses over the weekend, which was the highlight of my weekend, and these are prescription. So I looked really cool at work today wearing my aviators inside. Very good.
That's hilarious. I may just have to get a pair too. The question is, did you bring your Uzi?
We're not allowed to have guns at work, so I would never dream of violating that rule. So
okay, good enough. Good. Okay, so we need to get into the meat of the chat here. Why do you hate Taurus so much?
So it's interesting because here's how you can tell if somebody hates something. If they don't say things as positively about it as you think, then they obviously hate it. And that's how you can tell. And so when I told the truth about the Taurus that I had and my experience with it, that was construed as hate. And everybody wanted to talk about how much money all of the major gun companies were paying me because they're worried about Taurus taking over the market. And that's pretty crazy. That's really crazy.
It is.
But
are those? Well, the question is, are those checks still clearing the bank? That's.
You know, I keep looking in the mailbox for those checks to show up, and they keep not showing up. So,
yeah.
But what sucks about a negative gun review video like that is like you pay for the gun and then it doesn't work, and then you tell people it doesn't work, and they yell at you because the gun doesn't work, like it's your fault. And it's just
you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure. So that particular gun, like, I don't hate it. The design is actually really good. Like, if you look at just the feature set that the gun comes with, like, it is a good form factor. It has like, hands down for a polymer pistol, it's got one of the best, if not the best grip textures. And most people kind of puss out on that and give you like the, like, well, like, if you squeeze it hard enough, it's kind of aggressive. But like, the Taurus grip on the G3 is really good. Like, they got the texture really right, in my opinion. And the problem is the execution, at least on my version. And I mean, if you watch a lot of these videos, and a lot of these guys in reviews will just kind of sweep them under the rug when there are issues. And like, it's like, well, you know, it hung out a battery that one time, but it was only that one time, and it was probably the ammo. Like, the ammo's generally not going to make it hang up in the chamber like that. Like, the issue with my gun was that the chamber was too tight. Like, it's smaller than spec, and the brass or steel case was getting stuck in there, so the extractor would skip off the rim, and they just aren't cutting the barrels right. So I sent it in, and they fixed it. I guess they reamed the barrel or did whatever, they reamed the chamber so that it would work, and now it works great. And it's honestly a fine gun. The chamber is still too tight. It still grabs, you know, spec ammo and won't let it go, which it's not supposed to do. But I mean, the design's amazing. They just need to get the barrels cut correctly, and I think they'll have a winner on their hands. So I don't hate them, but I don't think that it's built to the specification that it's stated as being at either.
Yep. And that's been one of my biggest complaints about the Taurus, is that it seems like their QA/QC is where they're getting hung up on. From my perspective, I know that you've had issues with yours. We Like Shooting had issues with theirs. I've been lucky that both of mine have run flawlessly. I've had one major issue, and to be frankly honest with you, it may have been shooter induced. But realistically, the ones that I've had have run fairly well, but I get complaints all the time. And just like you, I also get told that I'm getting paid by man, we
got to figure this thing out, man, because I think we maybe can get paid, because like, if they say it, maybe it's true, and we could start lining our pockets with that sweet Glock money for
well, Joe Morgan. Yeah, Joe Morgan here in the chat room, I had to scroll back to get to it, but he says, if Taurus sucks, why are the sales through the roof? LOL. And that's a valid point. But Tammy comes back and says, oh goodness, because I know Tammy, and she works at a gun store, and she says Taurus sales are through the roof because people who know better have bought all the good guns.
Ooh.
Oh, I mean, realistically, in this day and age, especially 2020, and this is my perspective, I'd like to see what you think about this, is we have tons of new gun buyers, and there's probably a lot of uneducated individuals as to what they should get. So they go to the store and they see a pistol that, just like you said, ergonomically, visually looks nice, and it's only like $299, $300, $320 in some places, maybe as low as $275. I'll take that one, because I mean, realistically, a lot of people who are going to get into something that they're not too sure about are not going to want to spend a lot of money. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I see that Taurus kind of hits that really, really good budget mark for a lot of people, and they're sweep up and buy it. I was at the range today. Filming at the indoor range. I was filming for my next video, and I looked over, and the guy who came in next to me showed up with a M&P 15. So, you know, okay rifle. And then looked at one of the pistols that he had, and it was a G3C. And I was like, yep, that makes sense. You know,
checks out.
Yeah. And I just walked away. I mean, I didn't say anything to him. I'm not judging him on his purchases. It's just, those kind of seem like it matches up because they're both kind of in that budget realm. So what do you think that the Taurus sales are that way because of the panic buying and everything else that's going on?
Well, I mean, if you take a typical consumer mindset where it's just like it does all the same things and it costs less, so like it's probably just as good. But if you're never going to use it to understand like why it's not as good as the other brands, and in fairness to most people who are shooting, they're not going to shoot the guns to the point where they can tell a difference between like a service grade model and a consumer grade model. Like if you're not shooting over 10,000 rounds a year through the pistol for multiple years in a row, it's not even going to present itself. So like, yeah, buy the cheap one. It's probably going to be okay. But a lot of people, I mean, who have been a high burn shooter on a pistol platform, I mean, going back to my CZ thing, like those things are maintenance heavy. Like you have to maintain them or they don't work. And it just, a lot of people aren't going to do that. Like I mean, how many people in I think you've got one Taurus G3C video where it didn't work. And how many guys, like I put 400 flawless rounds through my gun.
Oh God.
How many of those comments did you get? Because usually that's what you get is it's a number less than 1,000. And it's just like, you must be crazy because I've shot like less than a case of ammo through my gun. And that's good enough for me. And in fairness, if your gun's not going to work, it's going to not work in the first 200 rounds and you're going to have a pretty good feel of it. So if you put 200 rounds through a gun and you don't have any issues, you're probably not going to have any issues until you start getting closer to like spring fatigue levels of wear on the pistol. Around 5,000 rounds, you might start seeing issues, or 10,000 on some of the duty grade ones that are oversprung.
Yep.
So, I mean, I just think people take a consumer mindset to answer the question. I think people take a consumer mindset and they buy the least expensive one, which is fine. But I mean, I look at things differently because I do have a competitive shooting background. And I mean, my ammo spend in a year is, a couple to few times as much as my most expensive competition gun. And like I spend as much on travel going to matches and match fees to go shoot. So the gun is actually kind of the cheap part. And if the gun isn't working like it's supposed to, then I don't even consider the difference in price on a gun for that kind of context. Cause that's not what you're going to spend your money on. Ultimately, it's going to be ammo. It's going to be range time. It's going to be travel. It's going to be training.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I like $100 different on a gun doesn't really phase me. In the scheme of things, it's nothing.
Two things. Number one is to your flawless comment. I had one just a couple of days ago on my G3C video. A guy jumped in and he's like, I've ran 300 rounds, 300 flawless rounds through his G2.
Flawless is always in there.
Always in there.
Always.
And he's ran 300 flawless rounds through his G2C. No problems whatsoever. Not whatever else he had to say. And I'm like, okay, that's great, guy. We're talking about the G3C. No one cares about the G2C in this. Okay,
I had that too. A lot of people comment on my G3 video, and they're like, "My G2C is just like, oh, that's okay." Like my Smith & Wesson works great too, but what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Yeah, it's like saying, to me personally, it's like saying, I do a video on the Glock 17 Gen 5 and someone jumps in and it's like, well, my Gen 3 works just fine. I'm just like, okay, great. We're not talking about that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. It was a classic. It was a good one.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a good one.
So anyway, I had another thought, but I just lost it. Kansas Law Dog, man. What's going on, man? It's good. It's good to see you. Richard Olson did jump in there with the Walter bit and says, you want a tow? I'll get you a tow by 3:00.
Yeah, there we go.
He also says,
I've seen that movie.
I just watched it just a couple weeks ago.
I need to watch it again.
He also says, clearly you're a CZ snob, so you can flex on all the pores.
I've got a whole trunk full of Ascots, guys. I can look like Fred from Scooby-Doo in a heartbeat. It'll be amazing.
Oh my goodness. So obviously we're here just to poke fun at Taurus. Everyone, it's not that we do not like Taurus. Again, I have recommended Tauruses to people. I have actually given a Taurus to someone. I just had them pay for shipping, and they had to clear the 4473. That's all they had to do. So it's not that I dislike Taurus. I just think that, especially with my Taurus versus TP9 video, there is cost, and to me, there's cost and there's value. Is there any delineation, if I could say the word delineation, between those two?
Well, so a great example of a gun that's still a good value but has a high cost is like a Sig Sauer P320 X5 Legion. It's a very expensive gun at $900. However, it comes with a pretty good trigger that you don't necessarily have to mess with. It comes with a pure stainless steel guide rod with 2 different recoil spring weights so you can tune it to your load. It has an adjustable rear sight. It has a Dawson Precision front sight. It has 3 Henning Group base pads that come with it right out of the box. Like, it's set. Phil Strader, who's the product manager for Sig Sauer, is a grandmaster competitive shooter, and he basically spec'd the gun to be like anybody could take this and have a good time with it out of the box. So there's not another gun that I can think of in that price point. Like the Walter, is the steel frame ones, I think, come close, but this $400 more, and it doesn't even come with aluminum base pads. So like nobody's doing what Sig is doing at that price point. But I mean, similarly, the Canik TP9 SFX is also a great value at just $500 or whatever they're asking for it. Because I mean, it has the Walter trigger group, and the trigger is exceptional. It is probably the best plastic gun trigger on the market, and the case it comes with is solid. The optic mounting system is pretty strong. Everything about the gun is I mean, I had issues with the one I tested, but I've since gotten one, and they seem to be working. That one's a good value, and it costs more than a Taurus. And I mean, you had the TP9. I think the Elite SC is another solid value. I mean, an optics cut gun for $400 comes with a holster and a magazine, an extended magazine. Like, that's a good thing. But I mean, for $300, they give you 3 magazines. It takes Glock sights. The replacement mags are only like $25 or whatever on the Taurus. If you can get one and like the barrel's cut well enough to function, like, it's an exceptional value. It's really, really well done. So I think it's kind of like, what does the product deliver and versus the price? Like, I just did a video on my channel, the Ruger Security 9, which in the panic pricing is selling for $400. That's not a $400 gun. At $300, okay, that's passable. It's a pretty solid piece for $300. But at $400, like, that's Canik territory, and the Canik smokes it in every dimension. Yeah. So I mean, I don't really think about the cost so much when it's what's what's it delivering versus the cost, I guess, is the way I think about it. And if you look at the competitive set with the other pistols that are at that price point, like, it should be kind of out in front of them if it is a good value. So that's kind of the way I think about it.
Richard Olson, naturally, my goodness, he says that you and I should start a line of ammo called Flawless Ammo.
There we go. Yeah, that'll be great.
That is a great idea. Richard, I think, Richard, we are actually going to take that idea, and no royalties will go to you whatsoever.
That's right. We just will never be able to get components to actually make ammo, just like all the other manufacturers, unfortunately.
Primers. Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
I am so very fortunate that this was an election, because I started reloading in 2012, and there, like, everything was unobtainium, not at this level unobtainium, but like, Tight Group was going for $40 a pound. Like, powder was the big bottleneck back then. Powder now is still flowing pretty good, but primers are gone. Like, they're just not around. They're just gone. Yeah,
I was lucky that a good friend of mine, and who I affectionately call my executive producer for my channel, he donated a reloading setup for me, and it came with a couple thousand primers. So that's good. That's good.
I knew this was an election year and it was going to be bad. So I was like, I'm going to buy like almost 2 years worth of stuff. And I'm really glad I did that, because it's gone now. They can't get it.
Yeah. Joe Morgan, with your second strike capability on the Taurus, I have a video about that that's going to come out here hopefully in a week or two, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers on that. So
I look forward to that.
Yeah, I'll send you a link because oh, it's going to piss people off. BR549 actually has a really good question, and it's probably going to have two different perspectives. I'd like to get your idea on this, but he says, how many rounds makes a gun reliable to you guys? What do you think?
For me, I do think it's that 200 round mark. The guns, even production guns, they do take fire fitting to kind of get worn in. And like even with the tolerances they bake in for like service guns and stuff like that, there's still a little bit of rubbing. And I mean, if that weren't the case, like take apart your Glock after you fire 200 rounds for it and look how the connector is getting shinier. Look at the trigger bar where it interfaces with the plunger and all that stuff. Like it's all wearing in together. And that's why that, I mean, so at about 200 rounds of live fire or significant dry fire practice, you can at least get the trigger group to wear in, but I think the barrel, slide, and frame still need about 200 rounds to kind of get going. So 200 rounds is my answer. What about yours?
You know, I'm looking more towards my experiences with Glocks. That's what I've shot the most. Not that I'm a Glock fanboy. I have been trying to broaden my horizons a little bit, but so far from my experience, if I'm going to have any problems, it's going to be within the first 500 rounds is what I've seen. Not to say that that's the mark, that's the number, but here recently with the Taurus, the Canik Elite SC, I'm working on another Canik. I've got the Sig Sauer P320 M17 and the CZ SPO1 Tactical. Those pistols, everything seems to work perfectly right around that 300 round mark for me. So if there's any type of issues that have ever come up, it's always been within that same area that you've talked about as well. Do you think that has anything to do with it wearing in, or is it more fouling, or what do you think is the difference there?
I think it matters how the pistol's sprung. Like you mentioned, the CZ SPO1, like the tactical models are set up for like NATO loads effectively. So the recoil spring and the Caniks are the same way, honestly. They come set for NATO loads. And so it takes a few hundred rounds to sort of get the spring to start to take a set. So it's not quite as robust as it is right out of the box. So I think that weighs into it, but like guns like the P320X5 Legion, where you can just put the 12-pound spring in it right out of the box, like it's less of an issue. So the shooting in thing that you're going to find is kind of the barrel and the slide kind of finding their lockup a little bit better, and that's about it.
Yep, but, right on.
It just like Gen 4 and Gen 3 Glocks are also oversprung, so they're gonna wear into range ammo, where Gen 5s, because they increase the length of the recoil spring or whatever, they're not quite as badly oversprung.
Yeah. Hypo Drake says it took nearly 1,000 rounds from my Yugo SKS to break in. Well, it's a Yugo and it's an SKS. I mean, you just
get your spam can and let it eat, I guess.
Yeah, that's no, it's I've got an SKS, but it's a Chinese SKS, and I've had zero issues with it so far. So
yeah, I've never had any issues with those. I haven't shot a tremendous amount of them, but they were fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've got one already set up. I've got the bandoliers with all the stripper clips and everything. So yeah. So yes.
There you go. Ready for it.
So Heath Olson also, Richard Olson, sorry guys, confused you both. He says that he worked for Federal for 10 years, and he's never seen a demand like this when it comes to ammo. Obviously, we have $1 billion back order right now. Do you think that back order that they've been reporting throughout all of the different companies is going to be resolved in the next 6 to 12 months at all?
No. Because depending on which I mean, it doesn't matter. Like whichever the next administration is, like if Trump manages to cling to power some kind of way, then there's probably going to be widespread violence. And if there is a Biden-Harris presidency, then there is going to be a bunch of posturing about tightening down gun laws. So it's just going to get worse. So originally my answer prior to November was I can't see this getting better until like maybe third quarter of 21. I think we're probably third quarter to 22 is my guess. That's a guess. I'm not an industry guy or anything like that, but I can't imagine a set of circumstances where it's like, oh, okay, like there's primers on the shelves again for reasonable prices because primers are gone.
Yeah. It's the whole situation right now is tough. I walked into Academy Sports the week before last, and just so happened to walk in the day they stocked the shelves, and there was tons of Monarch ammo. They had 5.56, 7.62 by 39, and 9mm. That's all they had on the shelf, and it was jam packed. I bought 2 spam cans of 7.62 by 39, and then a box of 200 rounds of 9mm because you're only allowed 3 boxes of anything at Academy, and went in the next day. Just maybe they might have some 7.62 by 39 left. No. All of it was gone. All of it was gone.
Yeah, as soon as that guy gets through the register, he texts all his buddies, and it's all done.
Yep. Sure is. So let's take a second here. Let me go back through the chat room real quick. Hey, Creed, thanks so much. Appreciate you checking things out. The politicians can get bent over. Yeah, I got that. Let's see. Kansas Law Dog in there says that not a single revolver was named in that list. So, yeah. I'm not a revolver guy. I recognize I recognize that revolvers have been around for 150 years or so, and or more than that. And they have their place. It's just, I probably will buy one, but
yeah, I'm going to buy one too, but it's just so much work to shoot them. Like just the act of loading them. It's like, okay, that's 6 shots. Time to do this again.
Yeah. And then you gotta pull back that thing that falls down and it goes bang after you pull the trigger. I don't know what that's all about, but it's like so freaking 1902, but
they're fun to shoot. Like I guess it's a Ruger GP 100 4-inch, maybe it was a 5-inch that my buddy had, and it was like shooting a 22 with 38. It was really fun to shoot, but it just I don't want to reload after every 6 shots, guys. I just don't want to do it.
Well, they do make 8-shot cylinders. They
do. But I mean, I could shoot a 1911 if that were my game then too, and win all the world wars.
All the world wars.
That's right, all of them so far.
Someone did point out. Do you watch the Mandalorian series at all?
Oh, of course, absolutely,
so good. Someone pointed out that one of the, I think it was from last season. One of the Mandalorian guys had a 2011 in his holster.
I saw that meme circulating. I enjoyed that because it was in a crappy leather holster too, and just like this $3,000 2011 sticking out of it with no magazine in it, sticking out of this crappy revolver holster.
Yeah, and I posted on there, won all Galaxy World Wars.
That's right, all of them.
All of them. Oh my goodness. Let's take a different twist here. And you've talked about your shooting competitions. You are an okay competition shooter, is what I understand. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all who you compare yourself to.
Yeah.
So like I'm going to speak about it objectively. Like I'm not like, yeah, I'm pretty good. This is my humble bragging. So at nationals and carry optics, Max Michel is the best carry optic shooter in the world. I am 77% as good as Max Michel. And at that given match at nationals this year, which was a very crowded field, there were like I'm a master classified shooter, and there were like 62 or something masters and 22 grandmasters. So I placed 60th, but I did have a second place finish on one stage and a fourth place finish on another stage. So,
Nice.
I mean, I'm in kind of the middle high range of the field in that regard. So,
And my understanding is that you did, in fact, beat Jerry Mikulik several times.
No, I've never actually gone head to head with him. I have been at one match with his daughter, Lena, but she was shooting PCC, so she mopped the floor with most of the pistol shooters.
Yeah. I saw a head-to-head that she did maybe 2 years ago in Vegas for one of the national titles. And wow, I mean, just to watch everything that she does, I mean, there's no wasted movement whatsoever, so
she's pretty good. She's pretty solid.
So I bring up the shooting competitions for a very specific point, and the reason for that is obviously you shoot a lot. So the point that you have the ability to give a little bit more insight into shooting any type of gun, I think is a little bit more. I think there's a little bit more substance to that than, say, a guy like me. I'm just a guy. I've shot competitions before, IDPA, 3-gun stuff, but not at any type of high level. I can barely reload my AR sometimes on 3-gun. So, and my freaking belt falls off in the middle of a match. It's a train wreck.
Get those belt keepers, man.
Suspenders.
Well, you could.
But I wanted to bring that up. I wanted you to, kind of touch on that a little bit and maybe talk about when you go into a review of a pistol, are there certain characteristics that you're looking for? Or are there certain things that you're trying to get out of the pistol to share with people? You talked about it with CZs at the beginning of the chat, but I wanted to see if there was something else that you are trying to look for when you're doing a review.
I mean, I kind of look at it kind of holistically. First and foremost, when you pick the thing up, like, does the gun give you cues on how to hold it to shoot it accurately? Because a lot of guns, like Glocks, are notorious for this. Like my Glock shoots left. Like, how common is that? A lot of guns that have the import thumb rest to get points on the ATF scorecard that has a thumb depression. So rather than having, let's see, I'm on camera now. So rather than having your thumb ride high like you're riding a 1911 safety, the web of your hand totally fills the grip tang of the gun, you roll your thumb down and almost have a revolver grip. And if you're firing slow fire, like one shot at a time, and you've got that air gap over here, as you manipulate the trigger, if you don't have like a lot of pressure from your fingertips to kind of counteract the movement, and I don't recommend putting pressure through your fingertips if you're gripping the gun correctly, by the way, then you're going to pull the shots to your support side and potentially low. And Glocks are amazing for being such lightweight guns if you know how to grip them, because they're so stable, and the fact they are so boxy, but they suck for new people who are just like, I'm going to pick up a gun and I'm going to hold it the way the gun kind of feels good in my hand. And if you do that, if you try and make a Glock feel good in your hand, there's a good chance you're gripping the gun incorrectly, because gripping a Glock correctly doesn't feel great. I mean, it's just kind of like holding a 2x4. Like, it's not like this is sweet form factor. It's made for my hand. So does the actual gun kind of like the Taurus G3 we've been talking about, it does the same thing. It's got that thumb rest. So if you roll your thumb down like the gun suggests you should, then you're going to get that air gap and you're not going to shoot the gun accurately. So, I mean, the Canik does it to a lesser extent as well. I think their thumb rest is a little bit higher, but so like as you put your hand into the gun, does it kind of flow your hand into the back of the grip tang, getting as high as possible so you reduce muzzle climb? And then when you wrap your hand around it, can you still reach all the controls? Because if you can't reach the trigger, then it doesn't really matter. So, and a lot of guns, because the back straps don't change, like Glocks, you can actually fit the length of pull to your hand because the back straps do increase the distance from the grip tang to the trigger face. Whereas guns like the XDM Elite, they do not, because they have that grip safety. The backstrap starts at the bottom, so they don't do as much for fitting to people's hands. But like the Beretta APX, my wife, like that gun's made for my wife's hand with a small backstrap on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I kind of look at like, can you get it to fit your hand well? And somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, if they pick it up, are they likely to operate it correctly?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the first criteria. The next bit is like how the trigger guard, underside of the trigger guard is shaped. Because part of getting a gun to run fast and accurately is getting the sights to track literally straight up and down. Like, you know, if you're shooting fast and you get down and left, that's probably because it's going up and to the right. It's going up into your strong side in recoil, and it's coming down into your support side, and you're breaking the shot and the muzzle dip. And that's why it's not a trigger jerk. It's the timing of the gun settling out of recoil with the way you're gripping it. And some guns have trigger guard shapes that make you put like up into the left pressure from your middle finger knuckle into the guard. So how that kind of interfaces with your hand. So I talk about that being kind of the mechanical fit of the gun to your hand, or the geometric fit of the gun to your hand. Like that's the first thing. But at this point, everybody's kind of got it figured out. So for the most part, the guns are pretty good as far as doing that. And then go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, in to your first point, you know, with the idea of, you know, does the gun tell you how to grip the pistol? That's the reason for the grip zone on the XCs.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it tells you right on the zone where to grip it. It doesn't tell you how to hold your hand. Like you could hold it like this, but yeah, that's that meme. Those poor guys. They're gonna have that forever. I mean, our children are gonna be chuckling at grip zone memes when they're got their own children, but
anyway, sorry to break your
no worries.
There. You had a good flow there. Keep going.
And then the next bit is traction, and I think the importance of traction is kind of overstated because there is precisely like one space on the gun where you actually use traction to kind of like mute recoil, and it's where your support hand palm interfaces at the top of the gun. That's the only area where you're actually using traction to reduce recoil, or because I mean, when you're gripping a gun geometrically, like it's locking into your web of your hand and onto your knuckle, like you're creating a vise and pinching it in like you would a pair of pliers. And like, even if your shooting hand is totally wet, just through your grip strength alone, you'll be able to keep that gun planted in your hand. So the traction doesn't really matter until you get your support hand on the gun, because it's only touching the gun with the palm of your hand and wrapping around your fingers. So like the traction of your fingers on your fingers is pretty important. So if you're doing competition shooting, that's why dry hands is really good. It's not like, should I use dry hands? It's like, what brand of dry hands do you use? Everybody uses it. So, but those are kind of and then the characteristics of the trigger, like increasingly trigger reset when you're shooting really fast. And when I say really fast, like anything under greater than 5 rounds per second, that's when trigger reset starts to matter, because like it will assist throwing your finger off the trigger so you can get on it and shoot again. Like the Sig 320 lineup has a very weak trigger reset. And if you're shooting, as I learned at last month's match, when we had a cold front blow in the morning, you can get trigger freeze real bad when your hands are cold if the trigger doesn't throw your finger off the reset. So like it's all kind of shades of gray. Like everyone is doing a really good job, except for that Ruger Security 9. I feel like they kind of aimed for like a solid C score on that pistol. Like they didn't like, what is everybody doing with their features? Well, we're just going to do like 75% of it. So a lot of the guns are really, really good, and it is just going to come down to kind of personal preference. But some of them definitely do. Like the X5 Legion's an absolute flamethrower. Trigger reset aside, it's really well set up to run fast. So I don't think in a defensive context, I don't really think it matters that much, because you're not shooting that fast in a defensive context. Like you're shooting like 0.4 to 0.5 splits, because you're going to take 2 aim shots. Like generally speaking, people with good grips will be able to get, you know, a very high confidence shot off at about that 2 shot to maybe 3 shot per second cadence. So at that point, like the frame weight and the geometry doesn't really matter. Like that really only starts to pay dividends when you are, you know, 3 shots per second or better. So that's just not real world for what we're doing as defensive gun carriers.
Yeah, and that's some really great insight on a number of different aspects, because there are some aspects that you just talked about that are very important to you and what you're doing in your competitions, but also will slightly carry over into just the EDC format as well. So that those are some great comments.
One thing I will say, just I have to say it because I have a personal crusade against this, is don't carry competition gun, guys. Like,
what?
Carrying a P320 X5 Legion is insanity. They're not exactly drop safe. It's a gun with a 3.5 pound trigger and no trigger safety. Like, inertia is going to set that bad boy off if you drop it. And to that point, a Shadow is not a gun you should carry either, unless you're carrying it with the safety on. Because in New York, about a month ago, a guy dropped a Shadow with the hammer all the way down, which is generally how people who carry CZ Shadows carry them. It fell on the hammer and it torched off around, and it killed the RO who was standing behind the shooter.
Oh, wow.
So I get it if you say that it's the best gun that you shoot the best with. Make a compromise and shoot one with a firing pin block. Because what we just talked about, the high speed accuracy of the Shadow 2, because a regular old basic 75B is going to have most SPO1 then.
Yes.
Using SPO1. It's going to have almost all the same features as the Shadow 2, and you don't have a reason to be shooting 4 or 5 shots per second out in the world. And that's really where the difference is going to be. They're going to be the same mechanical accuracy. The triggers are going to be about the same. It's just, it's a crutch for your ego, I guess. I don't know. But, like, do the safe thing and carry a gun with a firing pin safety and, not firing pin safety, excuse me, firing pin block. And if you got a hammer, that's great for reholstering with. But that's okay. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No,
I think it's a colossally bad idea.
It is actually really insightful, because that was about an hour-long discussion that we had in my Masada Ayub's class, Mag 40. That's a 40-hour course, and one of the things that he goes into pretty lengthy discussions about is, what do you do about upgrading triggers? And there's a little bit of an argument in whether or not you upgrade your trigger or use a sporterized pistol for shooting, or whatever the case may be. And I think there are some people that can carry it just fine, but there are second and third effects of utilizing such a firearm in a defensive situation that people are not prepared for, and it comes in the court case. So it's actually a good point to start a longer conversation about that.
The only thing I'll change on my carry guns at this point is sights. Like, I'll put better sights on. I'll put electronic sights on them if I can. And on Glocks, I'll actually put the Tau striker control device. I think those things are awesome. It turns a Glock into, it has all the benefits of a hammer fire gun at that point, basically, except for like second strike capability. But I love those things.
I was introduced to that actually by Tammy in the chat room. We got to shoot together a few months back, and she had one of those on her Glock, and I was actually really impressed. And I'm considering putting that on my Glock 19, which is what I carry most days, just to have that added feature. There's some downsides to it, but Mass, he recommended it. So after seeing it in action, being able to shoot it, understanding how it works, hearing Masada Ayub recommended, I thought that was a great idea. I will say that I had a ZEV Trigger Kit in my Glock 19 that I used not only for competitions but also as EDC, and I saw a video that completely changed my mind. So I swapped it out, and I've ran basic triggers on everything ever since.
What was the issue you run into with the ZEV kit?
I didn't have really. I did actually have issues. I found issues when I went through fighting pistol at tactical response. I was having light primer strikes on. I would say probably about every 20th round. maybe a few less. I'd be shooting, and then all of a sudden, click, no bang, tap rack. Which was great for training, but
Yeah, but how much crap did you get from your peers and instructor for all that?
Yep, a lot. The instructors were like, "What is wrong with your gun?" And I'm like, "Nothing's wrong with it."
I'm wrong with it, sir. I modified it.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's wrong with it.
I did say I put a ZEV Trigger Kit in it, and they're like, yeah. So
yeah.
Actually, Richard, he just brought up a good point here. He says Tula ammo, Wolf, Blazer ammo, Blazer aluminum. Any concerns, thoughts, opinions about using steel or aluminum case ammunition, especially right now?
I'd say at this point, beggars can't be choosers, and use what you can get your hands on. Steel case ammo is going to wear out your extractor, because that's a part that's designed with a hardness in mind of grabbing onto brass and not grabbing onto steel, which is obviously harder. And potentially over a long enough time frame, it'll wear out the chamber to where you start to get less of a seal potentially. But I've never really heard of issues with that. But I mean, the problem with that is that they use crappy projectiles that and crappy dirty powder is probably the other side of it. But the case itself, I don't think is an issue. Aluminum is just, I mean, it works okay. It's more brittle. If there's going to be a case head separation, like, it's going to be more likely out of an aluminum case probably than a brass case. But even still, the chances of that happening are like this big. Like, you're more likely to have an issue with remanufactured ammo from a good ammo remanufacturer than you are to have that issue. But that's just because aluminum's more brittle than brass. But I would say I'd feel better if you made me rank them. I would rank aluminum. Brass of any kind, top of the heap, then aluminum, then steel. But I mean, I would take what you can get at this point.
Yeah,
I think the bimetal projectiles are probably a bigger problem, because that's a steel alloy going down your barrel, so it's going to shoot out your barrel on a quicker time frame than just a copper jacketed round would.
So for people who don't know, quickly, just briefly, bimetal projectile, explain that real quick to your best abilities.
So a lot of the indoor ranges won't let you shoot them at indoors because it's actually an alloy of copper. So they look like a copper projectile, but there's actually steel in the coating as well, because it's cheaper. Apparently, the copper is more expensive than steel. So if you take a magnet and you stick it to the tip of your bullet and it sticks, then it's a bimetal projectile. Like Wolf makes a lot of their Polyformance line, I think, is the one that has it. And it's fine for like military applications, but if it's a gun that you do a lot of like high volume shooting with, like if you're a 5,000 to 10,000 round shooter, you will shorten your barrel life by keeping it on a diet of that.
Absolutely.
So you can use it sparingly, and in this instance, I would say use them if you can find them. But if you had all the options available to you, I'd say buy, FMJs that are made with copper and not bimetal.
Many things jumping in there says thoughts on the shell shock cases. I'm not familiar with those. Are you familiar?
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting tech. So the actual case wall itself is steel, like down through the flash hole, and then the base of the case is aluminum. Oh, so okay. It's actually lighter weight and it's thinner, so you can fit a lot more, like 9 major. If you've watched John Wick 3, they talk about 9 major. A lot of open shooters in USPSA shoot 9 major. So guys who are shooting like 9 major, it makes sense to do that. And because the cases are magnetic, when they go to pick up their brass at the end of the day, they just take a big magnet on a stick and just pick it all up, which is awesome. But at the same time, it takes different dies to reload with. You have to get the kind of like proprietary dies to make them work. But the cases do fail. I found some of them where like there's a separation between the base of the case and the case wall, and so they end up being like almost like 10 millimeter length when they're loaded. Because I found like 4 loaded rounds that were that way. But I'm shooting 9 minor. I'm not gonna make the switch to that case just because I don't have a use case for it. Like guys shooting 9 major, it makes a lot of sense. You can fit more powder in them, and they take high pressure better than a brass case would. But it doesn't make sense for just somebody who's out there planking with with Sammy Spec 9.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not something I'm very familiar with, and I'm just in my infancy when it comes to reloading.
Don't bother. Is the summary is they're expensive. Don't bother.
But you would say that there's a very specific application.
Oh,
For that.
absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For 9 major, it's probably one of the safest ways you can turn your handgun into a grenade.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, I will say that we're approaching on an hour. I wanted to kind of keep that right there at that point, but I did want to dive into one little section,
Sure.
and that goes into realistically the reviews that you've done and your experience of shooting. Two questions, real quick. Number one is if there is a first-time, gun buyer out there who is interested in purchasing their first one, what would you suggest as a good viable option if there is a budget constraint of $500 below versus no budget whatsoever, or sky's the limit? What would be the two options that you would say to that?
This is going to be the second one's going to be interesting. So below $500, I think the Canik presents a really strong value offering. Just the quality of the pistol that you get for around $400 is really, really good. Magazines are difficult to find for them, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as generally new shooters, because the trigger is so predictable and the gun has a pretty narrow front to back that most people can get enough hand on it with their strong hand to do well. I think that those are a good place to look at. I think the Beretta APX is also, I would say I like it better than the Canik just because I like the frame better. The trigger is not quite as good, but it's very good. If you can find a Beretta APX for $400 or less, that thing is a steal and you should buy it. Those are probably my two favorites in the budget category because both of those are actually like military grade hardware. I mean, the Caniks aren't in circulation, I don't think, but they have very long service lives on those guns.
That's interesting. You bring up the APX. I've been kind of eyeing it. There's one at the store here, and I've been looking at it and I haven't decided to pull the trigger on it. So
if it's less than $400, you should buy it.
Okay.
If it's less than $400, you should buy it. I was really impressed with that gun. I think it does the Glock thing better than Glock does. It's really well put together. It does the stupid like lift the firing pin block out of the slide like the 92s do, which I think is dumb. But that's its only sin. I can really, and it's very kind of exotic looking because it has the like slide ridges that go out. But above, this is what's going to surprise people. Above $500, I really think the Sig 226 or 9 line of pistols is awesome. I compared it recently. Like I don't own one personally. I borrowed a buddy's Legion. He has a 226 Legion. He let me borrow, and the gun is just super shootable. The trigger is really good, and I really like hammer fire guns because I like being able to holster with my thumb on the hammer. That's a really good safety feature. I mean, if you consider like if a gun is going to hurt somebody, what's it's most likely to hurt, and the answer is it's going to be during administrative actions like holstering to the person who owns it. Just because that's the most common, like where the trigger is actually exposed, and the fact that you can mitigate it just by keeping your thumb over the hammer is a tremendous safety feature. And like after you get through that long, and if you're not trained, I mean, it's a very long, deliberate trigger pull, and you may miss with it, unfortunately, if you don't figure out how to lock your wrist. But after that first shot, though, it becomes very easy to hit with. And I mean, I'm probably going to end up buying like a 229 RXP based off shooting my buddy's Legion. I just have to get some of that mad money from YouTube, from people the gun company sending me those checks.
Yeah.
And so it'll happen. Maybe never, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And the next question I had for you is, what's your absolute favorite pistol? we'll break it down. What's your favorite competition pistol, and then what is your favorite pistol for you to carry on a daily basis?
Favorite pistol, and it's not even one that I own, but shooting an open gun is like cheating as far as shooting a pistol is concerned. And there's a brand called Strayer Voigt Infinity out here in the DFW area, and there's a lot of guys here locally who have them. They're like $8,000 to $10,000 open guns, and I've never laughed so hard. Like a guy let me do a mag dump with his, and it sounds like a cannon going off every time you pull the trigger. It's not so bad if you're the one pulling the trigger, but if you're standing back into the side, you're going to feel it in your teeth. It's a lot, but it recoils less than my carry optics gun. Like it just doesn't move, and it just is so loud, and the gun doesn't move, and the triggers are amazing. They're like 1.5 pounds. It's super short. It's just it's tough not to feel like a shooting god when somebody hands you one of those open guns. But it's a very dangerous proposition with the ammo they take.
What's the ammo that you take? I didn't hear that.
Theirs are 38 Super Comp, but I mean, it loaded, even 38 Super Comps loaded over Sammy spec the way that they load them for USPSA. So you have to be kind of like a mad scientist to get your ammo tuned up so it runs your gun properly. So that's my favorite gun. I legitimately laugh when I shot it for the first time. It was so amazing. But my favorite gun to actually carry is honestly, I would say the Langdon Tactical Berettas.
Oh yeah,
those are awesome guns. They're really cool. The M9 with how they designed the slide, like while it's got a higher bore axis than a Sig, it shoots like a Glock because all the weight in the slide is below the bore line, so that it doesn't have a Browning tilt action. So it has the falling locking block, so it just runs straight back and forth. So it sits like this high out of your hand, but it doesn't move. So it's almost like shooting an open gun. So I really like those. You can hammer check them when you go to holster, and the level of refinement that Ernest gets out of his triggers, like they're about a 3.5 pound trigger with just a super hard wall. There is zero creep in the trigger. It's awesome. And in single action, he still gives you some take up because of the way the Beretta is designed. It still has the lift the firing pin block in single action. So it's very safe. It is drop safe. And like, I think it is like it and probably the P229, 226 are neck and neck for the best. I think the trigger's better on the 92s, and they're kind of more exotic Ferrari looking. So I'm going to give the nod to the Langdon 92s over the Sig.
Yeah. I just went through John Lovell's Defensive Pistol 1 and 2.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just a few weeks ago. And the guy standing next to me had one of those. And I was just sitting there looking at it and looking at my Glock and then looking at it. And I was like, oh, God, I feel like such a scrub, man.
They're awesome, dude.
And John, he made it no secret that I was a YouTuber, you know, and part of his group, you know, so he was always like asking me questions all the time in front of the class, and I'm just like, oh God. And here I am, no joke, in his class with a Glock 17 Gen 3 police trade-in that I took his class with. Yeah.
There you go.
It's all beat up. It just like, oh my God, it just looks so bad. And I look over at his, and it's like,
that's not a bad strategy, though. I mean, we do it in the competition world, and if I were shooting my carry guns a lot, I would do the same thing as having a training gun and then your actual carry gun.
Yeah,
like that's a system that makes a lot of sense because you don't want to put all the wear on taking, like if you're gonna take like 1,000 round class with a 2-day thing. It's like it's not a bad idea to do it with your beater gun and then have your carry gun, you know, keep the miles low on it. So
yeah,
that's a good idea. It's a good strategy.
Yeah, I did that after I started seeing all the wear on my Glock 19, which has probably got well over 4,000 rounds through it. And it's gone through a number of different courses. I need to replace the recoil spring, even though it's perfectly fine. It needs to be replaced. So at least I That's what I've heard. I think it's 5,000 rounds is what they recommend to replace that at. So
I think the book value is 3,500. Like if you actually read the armorer's manual on them.
oh, okay. Okay.
But they're so oversprung, like you can probably make
Mhm.
it to 10. You could probably make it to 10 with no problems.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it for a carry gun. I'd say
no, yeah.
5, give it a swap. But
Yeah. And if I do, I think I'm just going to go ahead and upgrade that spring and get a steel guide, and just make sure it's as top notch as I can possibly make it without modifying any of the dynamics of how that spring works. So anyway, well, I think that's just going to about cover it tonight. If there's anything else that you want to talk about, I'm going to give you the floor for the next few minutes or whatever you want to do there, Walter. So you can feel free. There you go. There's a line in the sand.
This is not NOM. There are rules here.
Well, that's like, your opinion, man. But I wanted to give you an opportunity just to talk to everybody and let everybody know, obviously where they can find you, if you've got any special projects that you've got coming up, and just give you the floor for a few moments.
Oh, sure. So first thing I'll say is, even if you think competition is dumb and you don't do it, I think you should still try it. And my plea as to why you should do that is because when you are put in a situation where you're trying desperately to beat your buddy, you're going to try harder and your body's going to do wacky, weird things that you're not accustomed to. And it kind of gives you a stress inoculation where once the beep goes off, you're going to be about 50 IQ points dumber, and you don't realize it. So it gives you that kind of stress inoculation through doing that. But more importantly is it teaches you, like, if you want to be any good at it, then you have to learn how to tune up your mechanics and kind of like teach yourself how to do things. Like, you learn how to do it correctly. And a lot of people, like with competition shooters, you generally push to the point of failure, then kind of rein it back into, this is what I'm capable of doing. And a lot of people don't do that in their training. They just like put the target at 7 yards, they pattern their buckshot on it with their box of shells, and then they leave. And I think that you should hold yourself to a higher standard, and usually a good way of pushing through that mental block of being afraid to fail is getting on the clock and performing in front of other people and trying to beat your buddies, maybe placing bets on who buys lunch after the match. So that would be that. As far as projects, I actually do have a project I'm pretty excited about. Everyone's favorite brand of pistol maker is talked to me about making a line of competition pistol shooting videos that'll be posted on the Armory Life. So I'm going to start filming this week on the first batch of those. So if you follow my channel, they'll be posted there about a 2-week delay from the Armory Life, which is where they're going to show up first. So if you want to learn how to run your gun fast and kind of the discrete competition specific skills, then I'm really excited to make these videos, because I don't think there's anything that's as holistic currently on YouTube that will help people not spend years fumbling in the dark like I did trying to figure out how to get good at running pistols. So
no, that'd be really interesting to see. So where did you say that you could find that at?
It's going to go live at the Armory Life. So I mean,
Okay.
We're still probably 2 weeks out from the first one going up, and I don't know when they're going to release it because they've managed their release schedule. But I'll be turning it into them in about 2 weeks. So around the first of the year, the first one will be in their possession, and they should have 3 or 4 more in the pipe. I don't know when they're going to release them, but it'll be some good stuff. The first one will be grip, stance, and recoil management, and a lot of the grip stuff that I kind of talked about, and it drills down more into it and how to get a neutral grip on the gun so that it tracks straight up and down. And it's not so much the slide opening that you have to worry about when managing recoil, because most people can manage that to keep the angle of muzzle climb about the same. It's how much the slide wobbles once it closes. And so I talk about some strategies in mitigating the muzzle bounce when the slide closes.
That's a great point. That's a great point. It'd be, like I said, really interesting to see when that comes out. If you guys are interested in following the Humble Marksman, if you're not already following him, I don't know why you wouldn't be, but I have all of the information down in the description below, where you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, and the YouTubes as well. So definitely swing on by all three of those, give them a follow, a like, share, all that jazz. Tell them about tell your friends about them, if I could even say that. And man,
honor the sacred relationship between creator and subscriber.
There you go.
World-class firearms content.
That is
Weekly.
Right. Buy his merch. So
yeah, right. No, nobody buys that crap. Some guy asked me for stickers, so I'm like, here you go. Here's a merch store, and I think it sold like a T-shirt and a sticker. It's there if somebody wants to buy it. Like I haven't even I think there's like a $5 balance on the website. Like whatever, if you want it, it's there for you.
Yeah, I have T-shirts through Ballistic Ink, and I mean, I might get like a $3 commission every other month or something like that.
Yeah, buying all that ammo, man.
I mean, but
it's like a primer.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't care too much about the commission off of it. I just want to be able to have stuff that people like and get a chuckle out of and all that jazz. So, but needless to say, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a lot of fun. I feel a little emasculated by your beard. I need to work on mine a little bit. It's looking good. And anyway, guys,
I have to use my standard beard joke.
Go ahead.
There's two kinds of men with beards and women.
That's actually true. That is very
standard
true.
Beard joke. Yes.
Well, I have a joke for you.
Okay.
Since we're on jokes right now, what do you call the poor Santa Claus?
Ooh. I'm scared about this answer. I don't know. What do you call a poor Santa Claus?
Saint Nicholas.
Oh, I see what you did there. It's a pun.
See what I did there? It is a pun. It is a pun. It's a dad joke. You know,
the dad. I am a dad, so I can appreciate the jokes for sure.
Yeah. I got a good one from John Lovell that will be on the intro to my video of his class. So
I can't wait to see that. That dude cracks. He's in Kennesaw, right? Kennesaw, Georgia?
Yeah, I think he's that way.
It sucks because I just found out about him because I used to live in Marietta, which is the next town over from Kennesaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I moved to Texas and I first hear of John Lovell. I was like, well, crap. I don't live there anymore.
Well, it really sucks because so I'm in the great state of Kansas. There's plenty of jokes there, but anyway, there's a lot of great people here. There's a lot of people in the Kansas City area that I'm able to drive a couple hours to and hang out with. But it seems like all the great people that I want to go train with or learn from or whatever the case may be is in the East Coast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Vegas, Phoenix, or Texas. And then the one other person is in the Pacific Northwest, which is Thunder Ranch.
Cape White? Oh, okay, Thunder Ranch.
Yeah. So I'm just gosh, I gotta travel everywhere. I want to go to meet up with somebody.
It's the same phenomenon with concerts. If there are a lot of good concerts that come to your city, there's a good chance you're going to get a lot of the good firearms teachers who come to your city too.
Yep.
So
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
So all right, man. Well, I'll get out of here so you can get home and get to your family and everything. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we'll do it again. We'll schedule again here in a few months and revisit why another brand of guns suck, I guess.
I'm sure one of them does. We'll figure it out.
We'll go Sky next.
Whoever doesn't send us those checks is who we're gonna.
It's a very good point. So, anyway,
right.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. As always, we really do appreciate all the support. Oh, I would be remiss. One last thing, mandatory carry. Thank you so much for the super chat. I did see that earlier. He said that he was at work and to keep fighting. So thank you so much for that. big support of the channel, and I really appreciate it. All you in the chat room, guys, thank you so much for the banter. You guys rock, and we're going to go ahead and get out of here. I will do a live chat next week. It'll just be a Q&A, no guest, because it's going to be right before Christmas, and it's going to be my Christmas live chat to you guys. So if you're wanting to join, you can do that.
You have to wear a Santa hat though. That's the rules.
I will have to borrow it from Eduardo, who is the skeleton in my attic.
Okay. Fair enough.
If anybody follows me on Instagram, they'll know what I'm talking about. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. As always, keep calm and carry. We'll catch you guys later. Good night, y'all.
Good night, Internet.